Hey everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Christine Jensen, multi-Juno winning saxophonist, composer, and bandleader, and assistant professor of jazz studies and contemporary media at the Eastman School of Music. Christine is here to show us how to incorporate traditional chorale writing into your compositions.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for having me back and exploring my world of writing for large ensemble, especially for the more traditional big band setting, which includes what I consider to be a wind ensemble mixed with a rhythm section with a few different parts we're working with the wind ensemble. So I think it's always, since I've now done 3 albums of big band music as well as piles of other charts that aren't recorded, at this point, it's a really big part of my sound to just leave the wind ensemble on its own and activate it on its own. So I thought I would just share my latest foray into it, which was I wrote a piece for the Canadian National Jazz Orchestra, and the theme was about what Canada means to you or how you're placed there. And right away, I thought about immigration and how people arrive and how they land in a harbor of some sort and what a harbor means to us, which includes protection and a safe place to land before you head into another journey. So the examples we're going to hear today are coming from that first spot on this piece I wrote that's about 10 minutes long, but you're just going to hear the beginning of the chorale. And also, the reason I chose this is that a lot of the times I've written chorales, there's a piece I have called Vernal Suite where I think many high school bands have played this chorale, and amongst other things, they're just these starting points for me with the composition itself sometimes. Sometimes it gets added on later, other times it's a starting point. In this case, it's a really big starting point, and you're going to hear the woodwinds and the brass collide together and work together on this. But I can also write chorale things for a piano or for just the rhythm section, which also occurs in this piece earlier on. So there's a few things I like to do with it, but just so that I can go back a bit, I think I've always loved the wind ensemble aspect of the big band. And it first hit me when I was probably in grade 9 playing Thad Jones' Us with our teacher in a band room in the middle of Vancouver Island. And I thought, well, that's the biggest sound I've ever heard coming from, 8 brass and 5 saxophones. How amazing is that? And I think that just stayed as part of my DNA into my writing. So it was a very beefy sound. And then listening to a lot of Stan Kenton, where he used that aspect quite a bit. And then later on, hearing the kind of robust yet earthy Liberation Orchestra and what they did with sound, with the wind part of the orchestra. And then hearing Maria Schneider and realizing that she learned a lot of it from listening to Bob Brookmeyer, who really beefed it up as well. And then, of course, in the 1990 is so pivotal because Kenny Wheeler's Music for Large Ensemble came out with the Sweet Time Suite off of Music for Large Ensemble. So that is a really big change in my life right there as well, because then I heard, lo and behold, a saxophone chorale. So that leads us to the next one. So here it is. Thank you, Darcy James Argue. I stole this reduction you did here on the Sweet Time Suite Part 1 opening, and I hope everybody can go find that album off. It's an ECM recording with an incredibly stellar band, and really defines to me what the pinnacle of Kenny Wheeler's sound was in terms of working with unique orchestration. So we can see it's 5-part writing for the most part. I think it goes into 6, maybe not at this point, but 5, mostly 5. And there's a bit of 6, I see it now. And then he does this brilliant thing of just, and what I love too is that you can just constantly double up your instruments on these things, and the sound just gets fuller and fuller, and who knows what could have happened if we put a full choir on this on top of it all. But he used Norma Winston's voice, which I thought is also really unique in what separates this sound. The other thing about it in this chorale writing, which is standalone without a rhythm section at first, of course, that leads us so that the motion of the rhythm and everything comes out of the wind ensemble. We are in charge of pushing the sound forward, and with time or not, it depends whether it's rubato or not. But also in his development of melody writing here, you can see he's taken the smallest motive of 2 notes and just gone doo-da. Then he extends it, doo-da. Oh, the same motive, but transposed, boo-da. And then he does it a third time, doing another extension on it. And then he does a little bit of a resolution. And that continues through the whole piece if you really get into it. There's a whole bunch of other beautiful things going on here. He's consistently working with that idea of repetition and extension of phrases. And contrary motion is also going on. And it's the starting point towards something else. And I'll get into that more with my pieces as well, or especially the piece we're looking at, which is called Harbor. So maybe we can move on to that and just listen to my first clip I sent. Thanks, Dan. So that had already been when the album comes out and this piece comes out. The listening audience will get to hear a whole version of this in front with just guitar, actually, which sounds incredibly beautiful on its own. So, but in my planning of the whole thing, I just love sitting at the piano and voicing out things like this. So you can hear that I'm letting something unfold and develop toward something else. So in this case, it's going to be a bit programmatic and head toward a whole other surprise after this, because then after that, we're going to, once the chorale's finished, we're going to embark on a pedal kind of thing. So there's a whole bunch of things I liked here. I enjoyed mixing because of the range of the melody. I thought that fit really nice in the Kenny Wheeler style with the saxophones. In this case, I used alto saxophone as the lead, and it was saxophones and brass, which tend to accompany trumpet, doing something else at times, so in a chorale setting. So that's the first section that you heard. I think we'll move on to the next big phrase. There we go. So this is the second statement, or the response to the woodwinds and the brass from the first statement. And I took a different approach this time, which is starting from a single note, unfolding into harmony. So it goes 1 note, 2 note, 3 note, 4 note voicings, and it's just the trumpets. So there's a bit of a fanfare effect to it, with giving them a little less stability from the low end of what the harmonies would be from a bass point of view. And this trumpet section is lovely. It's from Montreal. It's all my favorites playing from there. And I think the other thing I was going to say was it's just a really nice way to give them their own space for a minute. We get to really hear the quality of their sound. So that is the second step of this chorale that I wrote. And I think we'll listen to the third step now. Great. So this is where we all kind of come together, and that has given us a really nice development toward a pedal of the feeling of the rhythm section taking over and heading us into a whole other. Well, this is where the surprise will be when you hear the full take of this piece, because I'm not even sure I go back to this statement from the beginning, but I do feel like it was a way for me to figure out a starting point of a feeling that I wanted to have happen, of this embarking on a voyage. We've already arrived into the harbor, and now we're going to embark. So number 3, we had the full brass section come back together, tons of contrary motion, just like Kenny Wheeler had. I also like that I'm able to get some independent moving lines. I could have done more of that or less. It could stay in a very block, 2D unison rhythm for that matter. But in this case, I was starting to bring out some individual voices of moving lines, of inner moving lines. And this all comes from doing those joyous years of theory and counterpoint in first and second year of university, where I was put to the grindstone with this stuff to make sure it really didn't break rules. Now I break rules. I know Kenny broke some rules. And in this case, we're just heading toward setting up something new and a new voyage ahead of us. So I hope that leads any composers that are looking for a place to start on a sort of voyage and a journey of what you can do with a chorale and how it can feed the piece, or just inspire you to move forward with the start of the composition.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.